Mataji,
Thank you.
shall I read this?
Yeah. I was just about to tell you that. Will you want to read it or?
Yeah, sure, Mataji, why not? Okay,
Yeah.
Mataji, I'll start.
Yeah.
Arjuna again asks Krishna whether renunciation is superior to working in devotion. Krishna replies that devotion work is superior to the renunciation of work, and that one who is detached from the results of his work is the one who is truly renounced. Although the results of renunciation and devotional service are ultimately the same, devotional service is superior for the devotee can quickly achieve Krishna. A pure soul does not become entangled even while working as his consciousness is fixed on Krishna. He knows that while the material senses are engaged with the sense objects, he does nothing. One is unaffected by sinful action and is not entangled when he performs his work without attachment, surrendering the results to Krishna with no greed for fruits. Action in consciousness of Lord Krishna leads to enlightenment and happiness within the city of nine gates. The physical body with its nine openings. Situated in realization, the master of the city sees the modes of nature at work within himself and others around him.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Pranjal. How are you?
Mataji, I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Okay. So what we have understood so far is that Arjuna asked the question, what is superior? So Krishna is telling that work in devotion is superior because you don't have to, worry about anything, be in Krishna consciousness. And then he talks about city of nine gates. So let's continue from here. And if you have any question, you can definitely ask. Then first was doer number 1, that is the jiva, the soul. Now we are going into verse number 14 today. Doer number 2, that is material nature. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते.
The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Yeah. But out of ignorance, the soul starts identifying that, I am the doer of action. So that is what, even in, I think, chapter 3, we did, right? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma sarvaham kartahamiti manyate. He thinks that he is the doer that time. Soul is completely bewildered. He is into this material nature, right? He comes in contact and he starts thinking he's the doer. But actually, God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is omnipotent. He is everywhere. He is the powerful one. He is the one who is controlling this modes of material nature, right? He is conducting all the activities of the universe, but he is still not non-doer. He is not the one who is doing it. He remains unaffected. He is neither the director of any of our actions. Whatever actions we are doing, we are the director, producer, everything we have done. He is not the director, nor is he giving any judgment, upon it, whether we'll perform a particular good deed or bad deed, whatever it is. He is not. He is not the director. If he were imagine if he had been the director, there would be no need for any kind of instruction on good or bad actions, right? All the scriptures would end in 3 short sentences. What will be the sentence? Oh souls, I am the director of your work. So you do not need to understand what is good, what is bad action. I will make you do as I wish. He would have said, right? If he was the director. But that's not true. So God is not responsible for our getting stuck with the sense of doership. It is our problem. If we have deliberately created the pride in doing in us, that if he had created it, we could have easily blamed him. God, what are you doing? We keep blaming, but that's not true. That's not right. Fact is that soul brings this pride into itself, out of ignorance, mode of ignorance. If soul chooses to do away with this ignorance, God will help us. He will help us with His grace. Then that is why renunciation of sense of doership has to be there. That's the responsibility of the soul, not the God, right? We keep telling, why God, why me, why me? Every time we keep questioning, God is doing so bad to me. I'm so good, but God is not responsible. Body is constituted of the three modes of material nature, right? And all the actions are performed by the modes. So we are the director of our own action. So we cannot blame God for anything. That is why God is, if had God been the director, this would not be the case. So let's see, continue. Now we come to doer number 3, which is super soul. So doer number 1 is Jiva, the soul. Doer number 2 is material nature, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Now we are coming to doer number 3, which is super soul, Paramatma. Nadatte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhu ajnanenavritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha.
Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
So again, as I said, God is not responsible for anyone's good or bad deeds or sinful deeds, virtuous deeds. No, God works only in three ways. What does He do? He will provide the soul with the power to act. We can act. He is giving us that power. If He had not given us that energy, we cannot act. So He has given us that life force. So we can act. One thing. Once we have performed the action, so the power supplied to us, He will note down the action. Number 2. Number 1, He has given us the power to act. Once He has given us the power to act and we start acting, He notes down our actions. And number 3, what will He do? He gives the results of our karma. That's it. 3 things He does. He gives the power to us, then He will note down the action based on what we are how we are acting, and then He will give us the result. Same thing, like in cinema you see how actors, they are given, they start acting and then they are given reward if they do very well, best actor award. So like that, we are also given the result. So this individual soul that is there, it has the freedom, it can perform good and bad actions. It can exercise its own free will. God's work is like, what can we say? Like umpire, umpire in a cricket match is going on. So cricket match umpire, how umpire stands over there. God's work is like that. He will keep giving the results. Oh, 4 runs. Oh, 6 runs. He's out. He can say that. He's bowled out or whatever. So umpire cannot be blamed for the decision because for it was based on the way the player was playing, right? If the player has played, if player has thrown the ball out of the boundary, it becomes 4 runs. What has umpire to do with it? It depends on how player is playing. And here, Supreme Personality of Godhead, this umpire, he is perfect in every way. Our material world umpire may be wrong sometimes, but that umpire, he is perfect in his ways. So, you know what? We may kind of get a doubt in our mind. Why God granted free will to the soul? Why? It is because soul is tiny part and parcel of God. It has also got the same qualities that in a minuscule, in a small way, small extent, as like that of God. Quantity wise, we are definitely not God, equal to God, but quality we have of Him, right? God is, He is Abhignya Swara, means what? Supremely independent. And what happens, and so soul also possesses little amount of independence because we are His ansh, mame vamsho jivaloke, so we are His ansh, so we have got little bit amount of independence to utilize our senses, utilize our mind, utilize our intellect in the manner we want to use. And also, you know what, without the free will there will be no love. And for like you see machine, like this laptop or whatever machine you take out, machine cannot love, right? It has no independence to choose. So only person, human being, personality, it has the ability to choose, right? We have the option to love. And since God created us to love Him, that is why He has created us. He has given us some free will also. So the exercise of our own free will, it will result in good deeds or bad deeds, good action, and we must not blame God for it. We cannot. But what happens? We are so ignorant we don't even realize, that we have the freedom to choose our actions. But then we keep holding God responsible for our mistakes. That's not right. And some others, they realize that they possess free will, but they are so much into that pride thing, right? That doership. I am the one. They're so much into that egoistic notion of being this body only. They think they are this body, permanent body they have got. Complete mode of ignorance. So Lord Krishna is explaining next how such ignorance can be removed, dispelled, removed. So let's see. Now we have learned doer number one, Jiva, the soul. Doer number two, material nature, a mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And doer number three, super soul, right? Now we are moving on to how this ignorance that we have, ignorance, how it can be removed. That's what Krishna is going to explain. And as you can see in the on the screen, when you see the sunlight, I have got a right in front of me, there is a glass window. So as the sun goes through this plain glass, it will come out as plain, right? But if it goes through a prism, in science they call it prism. If the sunlight passes through a plain glass, it will come out directly or clearly. But if it passes through a prism, it emerges into 7 colors. You must have learned in science, which, it's the same, part and parcel of sunlight only, those. Similarly, the self, we, Jiva, passing through knowledge, once we pass through the knowledge that you're getting right now, you emerge as the self, which is complete. We understand now. But if this self, Jiva, the soul, it passes through ignorance, then what will happen? The body, the mind, the intellect, everything is split up like rainbow colors you can see. An unending world of plurality, sorrow, happiness, so many plurality you get into. So we need to have that plain glass, complete knowledge. Then we will understand everything. Let's move on. ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाशितमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवत् ज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम्.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
So darkness is responsible for creating illusions. In darkness of the cinema, you go to cinema hall, you sit in the cinema hall, what happens? The light is falling on the screen, right? From their projector, the light is falling on the screen, and it is creating the illusion of reality. You start thinking that you get into that world, right? People are so absorbed in watching it. But when the main lights of the cinema hall is switched on, what happens? Immediately that illusion is gone. That dream state is gone. You come back to reality. You're realizing, oh, I was just watching a movie. Otherwise, you're so absorbed into it. Similarly, what happens? We are in the darkness of ignorance. We are so much into the darkness of ignorance that we are identifying ourselves as this body only. This is my body. And then we consider ourselves, I am doing it. And we think I am doing it, so I should be, I have the full right to enjoy my actions. But when the light of God's knowledge slowly begins to dawn or shine brightly inside us, the illusion will go away. Like cinema lights, when the movie is finished, cinema lights, main switch lights are switched on, the light will be switched on inside us, and the illusion will go away, and the soul will wake up. And then it will, oh, I am spiritual in nature. I am not supposed to be like attached to all this. This is not me, while it is living in the city of 9 gates. Okay, who will tell me? Yesterday we did. Who will tell me what is city of 9 gates? Hare Krishna. Come on, quick, quick, quick.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It is a nose, ear, mouth, and then anus, then penis and vagina.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Very good, Sneha Prabhuji. Very nice. So the soul, this soul, it is fallen into illusion because of God's material energy, avidya shakti. It is covered in darkness. So when this illusion is gone, Then God's spiritual energy, which is called Vidya Shakti. Avidya Shakti, Vidya Shakti. Vidya Shakti, it shines brightly inside us. So let us see the difference between soul and super soul. Okay. Yes, Pranjal, please read.
Sure, Mataji. Soul eternal, super soul eternal. Soul blissful but suffers when covered by Maya. Super soul blissful above the modes. Soul congestant of his body. Super
Cognizant.
soul
Cognizant.
cognizant of all bodies. Soul anu atomic. Super soul vibhu omniscient. Soul has minute independence to desire but is dependent upon super soul to fulfill desire. Super soul complete independence.
Thank you. So see, there is a compare when you compare soul and super soul, both are eternal, right? But our soul, my soul knows my body, but the super soul, Paramatma that is residing within me, will know all the souls. I do not know what Snehashish Prabhuji's, what is he thinking, what is happening. I don't know his soul, but the super soul, which is sitting inside both of us, will know everyone. And soul is anu, atomic, very small, but super soul, oh, omniscient. It's there, all pervading, everywhere. And soul, my soul, like your soul or anybody's soul, it has some little independence because we have got the quality of God, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it has minute independence to desire, but it is always dependent on the super soul, right? To fulfill the desires. When super soul sanctions, it's fine. Then super soul is completely independent. So let's see the chart, graphic chart, the relationship between the soul, super soul, and modes of material nature. Soul is the initiator. He wants to initiate action. Material nature, it will facilitate. Okay, let's do. And super soul sanctions. Okay, I will sanction. So soul desires, Lord does not interfere. Then Lord as super soul sanctions those desires that soul deserves. The modes of material nature then acts on it, right? And then who is responsible? Living entity. We are responsible for our own good and bad actions, but not God. God is never, super soul is not responsible. Supreme personality of God is not responsible, right? So, what is the benefit of understanding the position of the Supreme Lord? It will lead us to perfect knowledge. And once we surrender to the Lord, we will know, right? We'll be on completely blissful, happy, and that will be the real peace. So let's move to the next section, section 4, which is 5.17 to 26. So it is about liberation by focus on the super soul. Now, how? One who is in knowledge devotionally fixes his consciousness on the super soul and remains materially equipoised, attains liberation in the near future. So focusing on Paramatma aspect. Let's move on. So the result of knowledge of the Supreme. तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठस्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः.
When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Simple, right? So as just as ignorance, it causes one to suffer in this samsara or in the cycle, perpetual cycle of life and death. Knowledge, it has the power to release us from this material bondage. That is why we are reading Bhagavad Gita. For what? To get some knowledge. What is all this? What will happen? Such knowledge, along with the devotion to God, that is what we are wanting, right? Such knowledge is always accompanied by devotion to God. So this verse here, Tad Buddhayas Tadatmanam, is very, very important because there are many use of words which are donating complete God consciousness. Like for example, Tad Buddhayas. Tad Buddhayas means what? Buddhi, intellect. Tad Buddhi means intellect directed towards God. Tad buddhayas tadatmanaha. Manaha means man. Man is mind, heart, intellect, mind. So tadatmanaha means put your mind completely, solely absorbed to God, in God. Tad buddhayas tadatmana tannishta. Nishtha means faith, firm faith. Your intellect has firm faith in God. It should have. Tad buddhayas tadatmana tannishta tat parayana. Tat parayana. Parayana means completely taken shelter of God. We have taken shelter of God. It means that. So, what is the sign? The true knowledge. The sign of true knowledge is that it will lead towards God. It will lead us to love God. So, if we are completely in such love, devotees, will see Krishna everywhere. If they are completely in love with Krishna, everywhere in everything we will see Krishna only. Such a divine vision. That is what is described in the next one. You will say Krishna, 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 Krishna everywhere. So let's see that verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Vaishvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana.
The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a eater.
Dog eater out. So when we see from the perspective of knowledge, we have got the knowledge, right? When we gain that knowledge, and when we have that knowledge and we start looking at it, that's actually called prajna chakshu. Chakshu means eyes. We have got the knowledge, eyes of knowledge. So Lord Krishna is using the word vidya vinaya sampanne. Vidya sampanne means you get all the vidya, all the knowledge. Sampanne means full of knowledge, right? What will happen then? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. But he also adds Vinaya. Vinaya means what? Humbleness. You should have humility. So, what is a sign of having divine knowledge? It is accompanied with a sense of humility. You also have humility. If you have done PhD, it's not your ego is increasing, you're coming down. The more knowledge you get, PhD, you get ego, right? But with the spiritual knowledge, the more knowledge you get, the more downwards you are, the more humble you are, right? Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Like the more you know, the more you go into that spirituality, the more humble you become. That is the sign of divine knowledge. So you get this shallow bookish knowledge. If you have, what does it accompany? It accompanies pride. मैंने तो ये पढ़ लिया, मैं तो PhD हूँ, मैं ये कर लिया, मैंने वो कर. What's the point of being a scholar? So Krishna is revealing in this verse that a divine knowledge. Once you get divine knowledge, you get a vision. It is very, very different from the physical side that we get. That's a different divine vision that we get, because we are endowed with that kind of knowledge, right? So those devotees, they will see all the living entities, all the living beings as fragments of God, and definitely divine in nature, right? So it's creation of God. They know that it is creation of God, and Paramatma is residing in everyone. So he's completely humble. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini. So he will see whether it is a Gavi, like cow, or Hastini, like elephant, Shuni, like a dog, Shwapake means dog eater, Chandala, right? Or even a Pandit, equal vision. Everybody he is going to see, everyone equal, because he knows they are wearing different dresses. Outside, they are having different dress, but inside, Paramatma is residing in all of them. Whether it's a small ant or it's a huge elephant, soul is same, right? Say, Paramatma is there in everyone. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. He says, I'm sitting in everyone's heart, says Krishna in chapter 15, he will say, right? Sarva bhutatma hriddesho arjuna tishtati. He says, I'm sitting in everyone's heart, Krishna. Everywhere he's telling so much. So what does a true yogi or intelligent person do? Let's see that. Sargo yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham his. Did I move on to that? Yeah, sorry. Okay. Iha terjita sargo yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha.
Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
This is the symptom of self-realized person. If you want to know what a self-realized person means, Krishna is using the word samye. Samye means having equal vision, like we just read in the previous verse. Towards all living beings, is having equal vision. That's what was explained, Vidya Vinay Sampanne, that verse we did, right? So equality in vision also means beyond the likes and dislikes, happiness, misery, pleasure, pain. You go beyond that. So Lord Krishna is saying those who are able to go beyond that, then they will not have to come back into this birth and death. So long as we are thinking ourselves as this body, we cannot, get that equality of vision, because we are having those desires, and we like something, we hate something, these bodily pleasures, discomforts, we are going on. And the moment we rise above this bodily consciousness and absorbs our mind in God, give up all the worldly attachments, that's when it will happen. We will get liberation. न प्रहर्षेत् यत् प्रियं प्राप्य नो द्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढः ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः.
A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence.
So what are the characteristics of a man of perfection who knows Brahman? How do you know? This section of the verse, it's neither rejoicing in pleasure nor lamenting in unpleasant. Kuch acha hai to bhi theek hai, nahi acha to bhi theek hai. It's like, it's the highest state. This naturally, you are reaching towards devotion towards God. So when does that happen? When we surrender our will to the divine. जो भी हो रहा है, good, bad, God, it is you who is doing it. Just leave it. So in accordance with this verse 5.17, right, when we unite with the to the will of God, then both pleasure ho, pain ho, whatever may happen, it is accepted. We accept. The moment we accept it, things start happening. The grace of God starts happening. So divine knowledge, that brings this kind of understanding that our self-interest, it actually lies in giving pleasure to God. This knowledge is helping us. So what does, if this knowledge comes, what will happen? We surrender to God, to the will of God. Good is happening, okay God, thank you. Not happening, maybe something is there behind it, we don't know, maybe some karma I did. So once we surrender, we get merged with the divine will. Okay, whatever is God doing, let him do. One develops that kind of equanimity, then we very calmly start accepting pleasure and pain. कुछ गड़बड़ भी हो गया ना, चलो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, अच्छा हो गया, then also we are in the same, because as we take it as his grace, right? It's a symptom of who is situated in the transcendence. I remember reading somewhere that there was a man somewhere, and once he had a farm. One wild horse ran into the farm. So everybody congratulated the farmer. He said, "Oh wow, good luck! Yeah, you got a horse now." He says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows? It's just the will of God." Few days later, the horse ran back into the forest. The neighbors came, sympathized. "Oh, poor you, bad luck, right?" He says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows? It's all will of God." Then after some time, the horse came back with 20 more wild horses. So again, people came back and they were rejoicing. "Wow, congratulations! What a stroke of good luck that you have got." What is good luck, bad luck? It is all God's will, he said. Then a few days later, the farmer's son was riding one of the horses. He broke his leg. He fell down. They all came to express the grief. "Oh, so sad. No, something bad is happening to you." What is pleasant and unpleasant? It's all God's will. Leave it. Just let us leave it. But after some days, the king's soldiers came and they were forcing everyone. There is a war going on. All the youth have to join the forces. And they were taking away all the youngsters from the village. This farmer's son, He had broken his leg, so he cannot be taken, right? He cannot take part in the war. So he says, pleasant, unpleasant, it's all God will. Everything is God is doing. So he just left everything at that. You can see what happens. He does everything for our good. That's what we need to always think. Let's see the symptoms of a self-realized person. Bahya sparsheshvasaktatma vindyatmani yat sukham sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukhamakshayam ashnute.
Such a liberated person is not attached to material sense pleasure but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
He concentrates on the Supreme. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's an ocean of bliss. He's an ocean of happiness. All these mantras, all these verses from the scriptures, what do they emphasize? What are they giving importance to? Divine bliss. Because that's the nature of God's personality. He's blissful, He's happy. So the yogi, any yogi who absorbs his senses, his mind, his intellect in God, he will also start to experience that infinite bliss because we are part of God. If we start becoming pure, we purify our mind, we will also get that kind of blissful nature of God who is seated within us as super soul. So that's what this means. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेया न तेषु रमते बुधः.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
Wise man does not delight in them because they are true yogis. True yogis, they are not attracted to any worldly pleasures because they know that these are the causes, of misery. So they don't want to, get attracted towards them. The more we get addicted to material pleasures, the more we are trapped by these material miseries. So material sense pleasures, we know it is all temporary. क्या लेके आए थे, क्या लेके जाएंगे? Nothing. When we know that, still we are in this Maya, you can imagine. We know this body itself is so temporary. But a liberated soul, the soul which is completely free, he is not interested in anything that is temporary. Maya keeps saying, come, 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 enjoy me, I am here. But as soon as you start enjoying that Maya, you become trapped. So let us see some of the examples you did in level 1 also. So what happens if we cannot control our senses? Like this tackle, this fish is there. The fisherman, he throws the tackle inside. He will invite the fish with small food item over there, right? And as soon as it holds the tackle to eat, finish. Fish is losing his life by eating. What sense organ is that? Tongue, right? Next is the what is that? Deer. So deer by hearing, it loves music, right? So hunter will play very nice flute and all that, and they will come to hear that. Hunter traps him, it loses its life. Then is the male elephant. Male elephant, it is caught by sexual attraction. So this deer one was ears, sense organs. Fish was tongue. The deer was like ears. Now elephant, attraction, sexual attraction. The she elephant is trained like that. It will go and the male elephant will follow. The hunter will make a nice pit over there. The male elephant will fall into that pit. It's shackled and taken away. So next is like bumblebee. So what happens to this bumblebee? It loves that smell, right, of lotus flower. So it will get trapped within the flower and it loses its life because after sunset the flower will close, the bee is trapped inside. So as soon as the moth here in the light, when there is a light, you will see many times, you will see so many moths are attracted towards the light. It is so much attracted towards the life, he is giving up his life. You know you are touching the fire, you will die. One moth is seeing another moth going and dying also. Still it is moving towards that. That's what Maya is. So this is what happens, when we cannot control our senses. And these are examples from animal kingdoms. They have only one sense, but we, in case of our human beings, we have so many senses, right? All our senses are so active. So what will be our position? Like, it's very difficult for us. Sometimes we listen to music, we are attracted towards there. We watch TV, we are lost into that cinema. Then we do some actions, we are lost over there. There's physical attraction, so many. So we need to be very, very careful as to, how we are doing it. So the tongue will be saying, let's eat spicy chaat. Eyes will be dragging us somewhere else. So we need to get out of this material pleasure and move towards spiritual realm and attain liberation. That should be our focus. Total devotion to God. Shakto nihaiva yat sodhum praksharira vimokshanat kama krodhotbhavam vegam sayuktasya sukhi naraha.
Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
The human body, we have got this human body, right? It's a golden opportunity for us, for this soul, to reach Supreme Personality of Godhead and get God realization. We have got this human body. We only have this faculty of discrimination. Discrimination matlab kya? We can see and we can understand what is right, what is wrong. Animals don't. If you see that, animals don't have this. Animals are driven by their nature. Whatever their nature is, they just do that. They don't have this discriminatory power. So Lord Krishna is emphasizing over here that we have got the power of discrimination, and it should be used to restrain the impulses that we get, desires and anger and all this. Lust and anger, they're greatest enemies, right? So here he said, kama krodhot bhavam vegam. So kama actually means lust, right? One meaning of kam is lust. But here kam has been used to tell all kinds of desires, or of the body, of the mind, and anything, whatever material pleasures that we get. So what happens when our mind does not get what we desire? It shows anger. And the urges of desire and anger, very powerful. It's like, strong current of the river. I don't know whether you have experienced it or not. When you get desire and anger, like you just don't know how to restrain that. So even animals get these kind of urges. They don't have discriminatory power like humans have, right? So they will do what they want to, but we have got. So that is why the word sodhum, Shaktoni have yes, sodhum. Sodhum means to withstand. So this verse is telling us that we need to withstand, restrain the urges of desire and anger. This verse is telling us, verse number 23. Sometimes we know we restrain the urges of mind out of embarrassment, right? Sometimes we do that. We are really having that urge to do something, but we restrain ourselves. Like for, let's say we are sitting at the, somebody said, there is a small young man, youth, he's sitting at the airport, and a beautiful girl comes and sits beside him. Now, this boy, his mind is desiring the pleasure of looking at her. He wants to look at her, or maybe he wants to put his arm around her shoulders. He's having that urge from inside, but his intellect will tell, no, that is improper behavior, that is improper conduct, don't do that, girl can slap you for that. So or just to avoid that kind of embarrassment, that boy will stop himself or restrain himself. So here Lord Krishna is not asking Arjuna to restrain his mind out of embarrassment or anything, or out of fear or out of apprehension. No, not like that. But through discrimination based on knowledge. This here Arjuna is telling, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, based on the knowledge, try to discriminate between what is right and wrong. So how to do that is the next question that comes to the mind, right? So this stubborn intellect is there. It should be used to check the mind. As soon as there is a thought that enjoying the material pleasure is coming into the mind, what should we do? We should bring the knowledge that we have got. Why we are reading Bhagavad Gita, we are reading so that we get this knowledge. When will this knowledge come to use? When we have this problem, immediately the intellect will check the mind. I have got this knowledge. And the moment we get this knowledge, we should bring this knowledge to the intellect that this all is the source of misery. So we have to wait, we have to pause, we have to think what is happening. So this opportunity is to practice discrimination. It's available only to humans as long as this human body is there, right? So once the soul is out of this human body, God knows what we are going to become. So let's make use of the human form that we have given, God has given us this time. As long as human body is existing, we have got the power of discrimination. And the person who is able to check the forces of desire and anger while he is alive, he becomes a yogi. You want to know how he becomes a yogi? This is how he becomes a yogi. And such a person, he tastes the divine bliss within himself. He is always blissful, always happy, all the time. He is a yogi. You can remain in the material world and still become a yogi. And just restrain yourself from everything, because we have got the power of discrimination. And how long do I have to tolerate the pushing of the senses? Until one must, when one must tolerate the urges of the senses. Please read this, Pranjal.
Until when one must tolerate the urges of the senses, until the death of the body, when one gets the strength to tolerate the sensual urges by focusing his happiness, activities, and goals inward, he engages in purifying his external activities by working for the benefit of others, then one is assured liberation.
So till what time we have to? Till the death of the body, we have to tolerate the urges of whatever senses is telling us to do. We have to tolerate that. So where will we get the strength from? By focusing inward. We have to start working inside, not outside. So he engages in purifying his external activities by working for the benefit of others. How you can purify inside? By helping others, by doing devotional service, by trying to do welfare stuff for others. Never think about yourself selfishly. Think about others more than about oneself. That's how you can get liberation, says Lord Krishna. योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामः तदान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति.
What kind of yogi attains Brahman? One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the supreme, and ultimately he attains the supreme.
Yeah. So inner light, that's the divine knowledge that we experience from within in the form of realization. When do we get that? We have to have grace of God, right? And when can we get that grace of God? When we surrender to Him. So after instructing Arjuna about the need to withstand the impulses of desires and anger, you need to restrain. Okay, Arjuna, after telling that, Lord Krishna is telling the confidential means of practicing it. You need to practice that. Abhyasena tu kaunteya, he says in chapter 6, we'll do next time. So he says you have to practice, right? So with practice only you can get it. How you can do that? So Lord Krishna is telling that I'm going to tell you the confidential means of practicing this. So here he says yonta sukhonta raramaha. Yonta sukho means one who is internally happy. Yonta sukho, sukha. Sukha means happiness. Yo antaha means inside. So whoever is very, very happy inside, internally, there is one kind of happiness that we get from external objects, right? I want a car, I will get it, I'm very happy. So there is one kind of happiness that we get from things that we get from outside. Then there is one thing that we experience inside, right, within. When do we that we experience? We get that experience when we absorb our mind completely in the devotion of God. Our mind is completely absorbed there. If we do not experience happiness within, we will not be able to permanently resist these external things, whatever temptations are there outside. Unless and until we are very, very happy inside, we will not be able to resist that outside thing. We'll somehow or the other will break, and then we'll again, whoever was chanting for so many days, then suddenly something happens, they stop. There are many, many instances. So we have to be practicing that. We have to be happy inside. So when this bliss of God starts flowing within the heart, then that, external pleasures, all these seem very small, very insignificant, what unimportant in comparison, when you compare both. And then it's very easy to renounce. That's what Lord Krishna says. So let's see the flow chart. Why to tolerate? Because we must practice to control them. Before we give up the material body, we need to tolerate. What is the duty of a transcendentalist? What to do? He has to try to restrain the anger and lust, desire. And then material desires, if you do not stop that, it will create anger. You have desire to get that, you don't get it, you become angry. So mind, eyes, chest, they become very agitated. Sometimes you want something, you're not getting, you're getting angry, you'll start feeling. Mind also gets angry. You have some burning sensation in your eyes and in your chest, something goes on inside. You can't tell, that's anger. So you have to patiently tolerate the urges of these material senses, speech, anger, mind, stomach, tongue, genitals, everything. How to tolerate? You have to acquire higher taste. What is that higher taste? Chanting, reading, hearing, association of devotees, ABCD, like yesterday I was telling. Then you have to reach Brahma Bhuta stage. After, that is blissful, slowly blissful stage. You will start enjoying because you have that, getting that experience within. Then slowly you are not interested in anything outside. Let's move on to verse 25. Labante brahma nirvanaha mrishekshina kalmashaha chindvaidayatat chindan vaidayatat manaha sarvabhuta rataha.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
In the previous verse that we read, Lord Krishna had explained, right, the state of the sages or the saints who experience the pleasure of God within themselves. In this verse, he is describing the state of the sages who are actively engaged in the welfare of all human beings. They have gone beyond those stages, so they want to work for others. Human welfare, that is a very, very praiseworthy endeavor, right? But these welfare schemes, that are only committed for the bodily care will result in temporary welfare. For example, like, a person is hungry. Good. You have given him some food. His hunger is satiated, like it's over. Now he's full. But after some time, after 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, he's again hungry. So that's not, I mean, it's good to give food, but spiritual welfare means it goes right to the root of the suffering and it will help them to revive God consciousness. So, highest welfare activities to help a person unite with his consciousness, unite with God. If you're helping that way, that's the greatest kind of welfare, like all these yogis and gurus are doing, right? They're purified minds, they're engaged, like our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, what all difficulties he faced, but he was doing for the human society, like even our temple president, like Namnishta Prabhuji. He is endeavoring, he's trying so much, so hard. He is doing this online courses for what? For free, for just doing welfare. That's it, welfare activity. Such welfare activity, it attracts the God's grace also, and it will elevate them even further on the path. So that's what finally, they will achieve complete purification of their mind and they will surrender to God. That's the path that they're going towards. They're liberated. They even though they are liberated, they come back to help other beings. So far in this chapter, Lord Krishna has praised the path of Karma Yoga. He is now going to speak the rest of the verses from here on about Karma Sannyasis. And they will say, Krishna is going to tell that they will also attain the final goal. Not that they won't attain, they will also attain the final goal. Let's see about that. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam.
Those who are free from anger and all material desire, who are self realized, self disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
So Karma Yoga, it's a very safe path, actually, I should tell you, for most of the people. Because 5.2 we also did, right? Second shloka that was explained, where that's why Lord Krishna is strongly recommending that to Arjuna. So, but however, for someone who is truly detached from this world, karma sannyas is also suitable. It is very, very advantageous, because there is no diversion of time or energy towards this worldly things. Karma yogis, they have to do worldly things also, and then they have to do spiritual devotion also. But karma sannyasi, they are completely detached, so they save time, right? And energy also. They completely dedicate themselves to in the devotion of God. So what happens is then they practice spirituality. They need not, do these worldly duties. They can dedicate their time towards devotion of God. There are many, many accomplished sannyasis in the history. You can see that. But Lord Krishna is stating that true karma sannyasi, they also make rapid progress, and they will experience peace everywhere. And they don't have this desire. They eliminate that. They remove that urges of desire and anger, and they can control their senses. They attain peacefulness in this life and the next life as well. So we are generally, we have this misunderstanding that, external circumstances are at fault. We are not peace of mind, Nimilra, because of external problems. But that's not true, right? And we hope that one day outside situation will be all fine, and then I will, be having peace of mind. No. Peace of mind is not dependent upon the external situation. It is the product of our own purified senses, mind, intellect, all that. The sannyasis, with their thoughts, their mind, their intellect, it's all turned inside because they are going inward. So they find ocean of peace within, right? It's independent of external circumstances. It may be hot, it may be cold, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter to them. And then with this kind of internal machinery that it's in order route, right? It's peaceful. So if the machinery inside is completely oiled and it's completely ready, they experience the same peace everywhere. And then they're liberated within this world itself. They don't have to leave their body. They're liberated here itself. So let's see this. Those who are in Krishna consciousness, that's the best of, because you don't have to worry much. You have to just focus on the feet of Lord Krishna. And meditation on the super soul, he is also assured liberation, right? Brahma Nirvana. But he has to go through, he has to be very, very careful. He has to control his senses and thrive in a very disciplined manner. So analogy of meditation has been given of a tortoise. Can you read this, Pranjal, this last one? Tortoise brings.
Sure, Mataji. Tortoise brings offspring simply by meditation. The eggs are laid on land, and tortoise meditates on eggs while in water.
You see, it is in water, and it is the eggs are laid on the land, and it is meditating, looking at the eggs. Just see that one. Next one.
The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them.
Just see, they bring up its offspring, looking at them. Just I can't believe it. Also, it happens like that. Next one.
Birds maintain their offsprings by touching.
Touching. So similarly, devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. Nice analogy through these animals, right? Let's move on to the next section, which is 5.27 and 28. It is a practice of Ashtanga Yoga. It also gives the same liberation. So let's see how. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyaan चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समो कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिः मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छभयक्रोधः यस्सदा मुक्त एव सः.
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming all at liberation becomes uh, free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
Yeah. So these renunciants, those they are more inclined towards Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga. Their extreme detachment, they are completely detached, right? So that makes them disinterested in the path of devotion because they're so detached. They are not interested in even devotion all that time, because path of devotion means it requires meditation on Krishna's name, or God's name, God's form, God's pastimes, leelas, abodes, all of this. So Lord Krishna is describing that this path is what some of the sannyasis take. And he says that these sannyasis, they shut out the thoughts of sense objects by controlling their sight, eyes, and their breath also. And they focus their gaze between these eyebrows. They will do a lot of meditation. If the eyes are fully closed, sleep may come. And if the eyes are wide open, they may get distracted by the things around them. So they keep properly. They, in order to avoid both these defects, what do these sannyasis do? They concentrate their gaze with eyes little bit open, 30 degrees maybe, and between the eyebrows and the tip of their nose. So this process, this will help them to control their senses, their mind, their intellect, right? And then they get this liberation, and because that is their goal. They just want mukti. That's their goal, so they do that. So let's go into a little bit deeper. Yoga steps, there are 8 steps, how to perform, like we just read in the previous word, and how it helps. It helps us to remove all that fear, the desire, the anger, everything is removed. So they are able to control their mind. Whereas in Bhagavan realization, Supreme Personality of Consciousness, it's very easy. You just have to keep doing devotional service, right? So you immediately, you understand the spiritual position. Once you are in under God, he is going to take care. People generally think that spirituality means inaction. Don't do anything, just sit and do tapasya and meditation. Sitting somewhere in the forest to be more spiritual than working in karma yoga. Lord Krishna makes the point that there is no difference between Karma Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. That is what Krishna is trying to tell in these 2 verses. So these are the Patanjali Yoga system. Yama, you have to go through all this: Ahimsa, Satya, Astya, Brahmacharya, and Apigraha. Then you have 5 observances. In Niyama, Shaucha, purity; Santosha, you have to be content; then austerity, Tapas, Swadhyaya, you have to self-study; Ishvara, then you have to surrender. You have Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. You have to go through all these processes to be able to go there. So this is Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. It defines 3 types of kriyas also. So this is what all the sadhu sannyasis who like to do hatha yoga or ashtanga yoga practice this. So we move to the last one. A person in full consciousness of Krishna attains liberation from the pangs of material miseries. This is peace. So let's see the last shloka. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim richati.
The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries.
So this sadhu, sadhana, it was all explained in 2 verses, right? It can lead to Atma Gyan, means knowledge of self. But Brahma Gyan, that is the knowledge of Supreme Lord, that requires the grace of God. So how does it come? It comes with devotion. So here, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram means he is the sovereign Lord of the whole universe, all the worlds. So Hridam Sarva Bhutanam means he is a benevolent well-wisher of all living entities. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, right? He is a best friend. So in this way, he is emphasizing that sannyas path, ascetic path also, the ones that sannyasis take, it is completed once he surrenders to God. That also he has come to Brahma that Atma Gyan, right? He has knowledge of self. But Brahma Gyan, if he wants, he has to surrender. Everything is culminating over there. So that Supreme Lord, he is the controller of everyone. He is the enjoyer of everything. He is the enjoyer of all the austerities, all the tapasya, all the sacrifices. So system of yoga is completed when bhakti is included. So Krishna is in his song of God, Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna very beautifully is including all the genuine parts of spiritual practice, right? But each time what he is doing, in the end he says, he qualifies them by stating that success, if whatever path you may choose, you want to go to America, you take Qatar Airlines, you take Emirates, you take Air India, you take whatever airlines, Air France, whatever you take, in the end you require bhakti over there. Yeah, right? The pilot has to be there, he has to take you there, and bhakti needs to be there to take you to America. So so if you want to go to Golok Vrindavan, whatever path you may choose, you need bhakti in the end. We have to understand that, nothing belongs to anyone but Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then we must remember what Brahma said in Brahma Samhita 5.1, right? What did he say about Krishna? Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He says, right? So everything is Krishna. Everything is Krishna. So let's see the peace formula. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. He is the beneficiary of all sacrifices and penances, right? So we should offer everything to him. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the supreme proprietor of all the planets and demigod. No one is greater than him. So Hridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all the living entities. That's the peace formula. The moment we understand this, we will find peace within, because nothing is ours. So if you know God, you will know peace. And N-O God, no God, then there is N-O, peace, no peace. So we have to understand like this, right? So we think we are the enjoyer, but then if we start thinking like that, it will tie us to this cycle of action and reaction. We do some action, we get the reaction, right? So we have to understand that he is Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Nobody is greater to him. He is the greatest. He is the supreme. He is the supreme proprietor of all the planets and demigod, right? So we are just temporary owners. It's like, you take a house on rent. That's how this body is on rent right now. We are living in this. So Hurdam Sarva Bhutanam, he is our best friend. He is the well-wisher. He knows what we like and what we dislike. He knows everything. The moment we become his friend, we'll find everybody to be, our friend. We won't find any enemy only anywhere. So there is no one greater than Krishna. That's what we learn here. So let's see the summary. Sannyasa or Karma Yoga 5.1. Yachreya. Karma Yoga, Sannyasa, Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Nishkama Karma, it will free us from bondage. Purvan Api Nalipyate. Then liberation by focus on Supreme 5.17 to 29. Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati. The moment we get this this knowledge, we will get this Shanti or peace formula. So in the next chapter, Krishna is going to explain about what we spoke about, Ashtanga Yoga, right? Eightfold yoga system. That is what he is going to explain to us, how we can control our mind and senses by using the eightfold yoga system. That's a process, right? So we have to see that. So I hope you understood this lesson. So next time we will take chapter 6. So we have finished this chapter. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamo Dhyayaha. Vancha Kalpata Rupasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.